Hey everyone, it's Mark here, your firefighter, realtor, and out-of-state investor. Today I have a special guest on, Tyler Furukawa, who I know through my mastermind and who's pretty much reached financial independence, financial freedom, and I'll let him introduce himself right now.
Hi, I'm Tyler Furukawa. As Mark mentioned, I met him a couple years ago. We're in the same mastermind. That's with the Lane Kawalka's group and Simple Passive Cash Flow. And we've got to know each other pretty well over the few years. As far as kind of my background, my journey began quite a while back, very different. 2002, I bought my first single family rental and I did that. I was in the Navy, so I had my VA loan. So that's where I utilized that. This was in Jacksonville, Florida. And that was the path I was on for a while, buying single family homes, doing what you call house hacking. And kind of that got put on hold after a while. For me, it wasn't scalable. I was doing it all myself. I had my regular engineering job, so I was a W-2 engineer after I got out of the Navy. And then I also am a dad of two boys, so they're 12 and 9 now. So a lot of that just with the family, it got very overwhelming. So I kind of put investing on the side up until about 2018 when I met um, Lane Kawalka and also this other person, George Antone with Finance Academy, and literally kind of got my eyes opened up to the different alternative investing and different mindset approaches on the non-traditional investments, which really then changed my life pretty exponentially in a relatively short amount of time. And as Mark mentioned, pretty much being able to reach financial independence. And I classify that as, being able to generate enough passive income that covers my living expenses. And, people can kind of define that how they want. But yeah, I was able to leave my W-2 engineering job back in June of 2021. And that was for multiple reasons, but reaching that passive income number really helped to make that decision. And today my passion really is to kind of be here, like talking with Mark and others to share whatever knowledge I may have, experiences, lessons learned, the good and the bad, and just be fully transparent and to help. Because when I was going through it, from 2002 to 2018, I really was alone. I didn't I was kind of a one-man operation, really just doing my own thing, being very private. It was really when I got to interact with like-minded people through meetups, through masterminds, and where it really gave me the confidence to kind of dive deep into this alternate world that is not that popular, what wasn't that popular back then. And my close friends and family were not that supportive with it because they thought it was scams. But it was nice to kind of interact with people. So that's really my passion now, is to be that person maybe for others to really bounce ideas off of, or just to help provide some background information.
Yeah, so you've touched on a lot of great information so far. I kind of want to go back to you talking about your first, I guess, you were house hacking in the beginning. Was that kind of like the plan? Like you already had back then, did you already have a plan for reaching financial freedom, or was it a different path to just, to generate some wealth? Or so what was your plan back then?
Yeah, good question. So I'll go back a little bit from 2002 and really went my time in college. So I went to University of Washington. Um, being from Hawaii, we had a house of 10 of us in a house, and it was a party house. It wasn't a well-maintained home. And all I remember back then was, we would do a lot of work on our own individual rooms to keep it up and make it nice. Um, and then our landlord basically would show up once a month and collect this $3,000 check, right? And I was like, man, well, I kind of want to be that guy. I want to get to know that guy a little bit. And it really clicked too when our senior year, we actually had to move. We moved to another property because some people graduated and left early. So we downsized to another house, and that house was the same landlord. So we I saw him again, at a different property, and I got to talk to him and got to understand that he had a few properties free and clear, and that was his main source of income. So leaving college, I kind of had that in the back of my mind. Wow, real estate could result in that. Um, Being that I was in the military and the Navy, I had that VA loan, so it made it very feasible that I could go out and buy a property. And I remember leaving that house and when I graduated and going into the Navy, telling my roommates, "Hey, I'm gonna go buy a house." And I was stationed in Mayport, Florida, um, which I hated, but it enabled me to purchase a very affordable house. It was like $116,000 in 2002, 3 bedroom, 2 bath. It literally was like 4 years old, and so when I did that, well, I had this 3 bedroom house as a single guy in the Navy with very little friends or family in that area, or actually I would say no friends or family in that area. So what I started doing was fixing up the interior and then starting to rent out one room at a time. That was kind of an idea from another naval officer on board, was saying, hey, why don't you rent it out to other officers because they're always coming and going. So I started doing that. Literally, I was living in that first house for free, making some income, and I was like, man, I can do this every year. Buy a property every year and just kind of do this. And that's where I kind of developed my original plan of buying, property a year for 10 years, and then eventually selling it off, and maybe selling most of it off and having a handful free and clear, or at least like two or three free and clear. And that would have been my 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 plan. And I'd sort of put my head down, really focus and do that. And people in the Navy at that time kind of knew me for doing that, hardworking, really not really partying, kind of being focused on that, being very frugal. And I started telling people, hey, I'll be financially free when I'm 40. I didn't want, one motivation was that I didn't want to be in the Navy. I didn't like all the rules and me not having much freedom or control over things. And this was especially during right after 9/11. So the rules kind of changed a lot, and the lifestyle changed. But that was a huge motivator to kind of get me on that path of saying that financial independence then would allow me to have that freedom. So that's kind of where I went. Again, it wasn't I didn't have forums or really podcasts or books or really anyone else to talk to. I was just kind of doing it, and I just kept on thinking about that landlord, wanting to be like him one day with 3 properties and just coming around once a month and collecting the rent.
So that was kind of like your rich dad. Like that was, you encountered him and he was doing this, and you kind of picked his brain and kind of piggybacked off of his system as far as what he was doing. But so you
Yeah.
were house hacking before it was even like a cool term out there, what everybody seems to be doing. You were doing something, almost 20 years ago that a lot of people are trying to get into now to really lower their cost of living or lower their biggest expense so that they can save more to invest. But that's
Yeah.
awesome that, yeah, I mean, like 20 years ago. And so that was your plan in the beginning. And I know you transitioned to a lot of other investment opportunities along the way. So do you want to touch on kind of some other things that you've dabbled in or investments that you've kind of been switching over to?
Sure. And I'll stay a little bit on the single family rentals because that's what I did for a while. And the other unique thing I did was, yeah, the willingness of buying a place, living in it fixing it up. So, there's years where I would be just living kind of in a, you know, sort of a dump as I fix it up. And right until I fix it up and get it nice, that's when I would be leaving. So I never really got to appreciate living in a nice place. We would be washing, the dishes in the bathtub while I'm doing the renovation in the kitchen. And it was a slower process, not like very sophisticated method, right? Because I was working, I was tired and I was just kind of getting by. So again, that really was the bulk of it all the way through 2018. And the other thing I really focused on was properties that were single family homes, but I could not only house hack, but sort of separate it or split it up so that it's we're not sharing rooms. Because a lot of times as I got older, I wanted some privacy, right? So house hacking is good maybe when I was younger and it felt like you're living in dorms or college. As you get a little older, that privacy kind of was also valued. So I started buying properties that I knew I could kind of split up. And so that was that philosophy. And I was doing that. I got up to about 5 doors, and that's where it kind of just stopped and held, and it just got too overwhelming. Why I really even shifted, so 2018 is where I sort of had a midlife crisis, right? I turned 40 in 2018, and I looked around and I felt nowhere close to that financial independent goal that I told everyone I was going to do. So I really, um, I'm not going to say I was depressed, but I went into kind of this this failure mode or feeling where I felt like, man, I failed and I was such a failure and I did all of these things. Um, and that's where I really went searching. I said, there has to be a better way, right? There has to be something better out there. And um, I went searching on the internet and there's a whole slew of things. So this is where I got really introduced to a whole slew of things where I felt like, alternatives, notes, non-performing notes, performing notes. I was doing a lot of that. Just some real estate funds or, REITs. Um, and again, I was mainly focused on assets that didn't take, where I didn't have to manage it heavily. So I had to rely on a lot of these relationships, but I was doing notes early on because I understood the concept of a mortgage, and being the banker or being the paper holder on that side was much better than being the landlord and having to answer the tenants, toilets, and all of that. So I was kind of doing that right off the bat. The entry level is a lot more manageable. It's very easy to do that. And while I met, Lane, um, and for a simple path cash flow, kind of learned all about syndications and that world of syndications. So that once I kind of got introduced to that topic, I was able to meet him face to face because he's also here in Hawaii. And that really was all I needed to start really transferring a lot of my lazy equity in my rentals, because I was trying to pay those mortgages down to get to that, free and clear properties. I had a lot of lazy equity, so I was actually a lot better off than what I originally thought. It's just that my things were not working for me, so I just transferred a lot of that to syndications. As I mentioned, George, the other person kind of in line with that, then sort of introduced me to all types of financial hacking. And I would say kind of like the sweep strategy was one of those, infinite banking or private vaults, and where to store your capital, and then proper capital structures so that you can really start utilizing strategic debt and not be afraid of leverage, and use it to enhance your returns. But so as I went through that journey, notes was kind of the first alternative investments I did just because it was easy. And then syndications. And then when we say syndications, that's so a broad term. So it kind of, the first thing, of course, was multifamily apartment buildings. But then, I sort of started dabbling into office spaces, um, self-storage, mobile home parks, um, ATM fund, ATMs. Um, and then I kind of got introduced also to resident assisted living, that academy, about utilizing resident homes for the need for long-term care. And so I kind of dabbled in that, learned about that, and just been kind of searching for all of these different assets, because I feel like they're just different asset or cash flow streams that can help provide various incomes during various cycles of the economy.
Yeah, so what actually kind of amazes me about you, and for a lot of people in our mastermind in our group, and what we refer to you as, you're very big on like leveraging money and making your money work for you, and having it invest in one place, but also being able to tap into that capital and put it someplace else, so it's growing in multiple places. So I know amongst us, you're also very big with like the infinite banking. And so there's a lot of misconceptions out there about infinite banking and how it works. And a lot of people talk about it as being a scam and whatnot. But you're very good at explaining it and breaking it down. And like, how do you use that in your investment strategies right now?
Yeah, so for and yeah, infinite banking, and I'll say the more generically the use of permanent whole life as a storage vehicle or a vault for my capital. That has kind of become a big foundation of my my financial portfolio, in the sense where it utilizes a basic concept called buy, borrow, die. So you're buying an asset. You, as that asset appreciates or grows, you tap into that equity via a borrow or loaning it. So buy, borrow, and then by borrowing it instead of selling it, you basically eliminate capital gains, and then you also eliminate income tax. So you do incur debt servicing, but if you compare the debt servicing to those other two, it's much smaller. So and then you do that until you die, and then when you die, that the wealth can transfer to a beneficiary, whether that's your kids, a foundation, a trust. So it really just utilizes that concept. Now, that concept is very popular, and I think with the leaking of maybe some tax returns from wealthy people, they see that a lot of these wealthy people utilize this strategy, and it's a strategy you can use with any type of asset. So where you could do it with a house. So people pulling a HELOC off of their house, it's basically that exact same strategy. Or maybe a securities backed line of credit, where you're putting up your brokerage portfolio as collateral, and they're allowing you to give you a line of credit. Or whether you're buying this permanent whole life insurance as an asset, and that grows, and then you're able to leverage off of that value. And all three of those concepts, the benefit also, other than reducing the tax benefit, the tax implications, is that the original asset is left there, continue to grow. And so your house appreciates whether you have a mortgage or a HELOC. Same thing with your stock portfolio, if whether you have that line of credit out, and same thing with insurance. So it's really basically utilizing that underlying concept. Now, why I like the infinite banking or whole life is because it's a very secure and safer asset, right? That is very stable. It's been around for 160 plus years. They've been very predictable and stable. The downside to that, which people may look at it and say, hey, the returns might be not as great, or it might be small compared to other investments they can do. And that's sort of the misnomer, right? Is this infinite banking or the use of permanent whole life insurance? It's not an investment strategy. It's not an investment vehicle. It's really just a strategy. So it's just kind of another toolbox that you use to then go do what you were going to do anyway, and then you can go and invest that. But um, that's kind of the overall concept. As far as my comfort level with the use of leverage or debt, I have to, attribute that to George Antone and that Finance Academy, and just being able to kind of track that, show, hey, the debt servicing that I'm occurring is being covered by these assets that I'm now investing in. So as long as I kind of manage that, and that's where the cash flow tracking to me is very important. You're able to basically, I won't say have free money, but you're able to access funds, and not have and do it safely, right? And be able to have this cash flow cover the debt servicing, so that now you really have your money working in multiple areas. That same dollar could be working in multiple areas. But it is something you have to track and be disciplined with, which I've developed maybe that habit over time.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you break it down very well to a lot of us, and make it simple for us to understand. And no, that's one of the biggest things I think I got, from our mastermind and being around people like you, is that it's making your money work for you in multiple places. And that's kind of the key to how, reaching your financial independence or financial freedom a lot quicker works, is just, instead of letting your money stay stagnant, or, you're putting it in multiple places where it's growing and compounding on itself.
Mhm.
So, you mentioned a lot of investments, a lot of things that you kind of dabbled in, and you looked into. But what would you say, I guess, kind of what your kind of focus is right now? Are you still doing single family homes? Are you, primarily syndications, or what else are you kind of looking into right now?
Yeah, so um, right now I'm heavily focused on my lifestyle and freedom of time. So because of that, I really am drawn to the passive investments. So kind of saying that, I left my W-2 job in 2021. At that point, I still had a lot of I had three single family rentals still actively going. um, I was able to tap into most of that equity, via HELOCs or cash out refis. But in 2002, I was preparing to leave my W-2. One, I looked at the market; it was it was good. So I wanted to capitalize on that. Secondly, was I wanted to kind of minimize the headaches and the things in my life that were not as enjoyable. So that's where I sold off the three single family rentals in 2001, rolled it all into various passive incomes, mainly syndications, and that's been heavily my focus. Because I no longer have that steady W-2 income, as I rolled it in, I heavily focused on cash flowing assets, because a lot of my portfolio was already in, value add equity deals. I wanted to focus a little bit more on some stable cash flow, because that's what, I've been used to my whole working life. So for that first 20 years or so, I got accustomed to getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. And I was from the military and then federal engineer. So I never really had this huge earning power. It was decent as an engineer, but it wasn't, say, like a doctor or radiologist or something of that sort. So I always had to be very efficient out. So therefore, I'd always track my cash flow, very very tightly every month. So that's where now it helps me sleep at night knowing that I have some of these steady cash flow things, and I don't necessarily need these huge double equity multipliers, because that really doesn't provide me my lifestyle. It's really the monthly cash flow that helps sustain my time freedom and the lifestyle that I choose. So that's mainly my focus. And I have gotten into some active deals, in the sense, as I mentioned earlier, I got a short-term rental in Charleston, South Carolina. However, it was structured in a sense where it's very passive on my end. So, it's a partnership deal with a good friend, and my portion is very passive, or both of our portions is very passive. Again, it's really leveraging, not only capital but also leveraging relationships. So, being part of these groups, we get introduced and we establish these tight relationships that really help us to then capitalize on that, in the sense that maybe I may value time right now and someone else may need the capital, and then we can make a win-win situation out of that. So any deals I go into, cash flow is at least at this point is one of the top priorities. Preservation of wealth also, kind of in this stage. And then yeah, the equity multiplier would be second, but also making sure that it's passive and doesn't create another job for me, basically.
Yeah, so you kind of touched on like, networking and being around other individuals. And that's totally, I agree with that. And I love all these groups that I'm a part of and all these people I'm meeting. And it's even motivation because I see you, I try to get a hold of you and you're like taking a nap, or you're relaxing, or you're not doing because you're already financially free, and I'm trying to get a hold of you. But that's like motivation for like where I want to get and where I want to be. But would you say, how important is it to network, or be a part of, or be around these type of people like you were talking about?
Oh, I would put it up there with the actual knowledge. So I feel I'm a big believer that we all don't have to make the experience or go through the mistake to really learn from it, right? So that's where being involved in groups where you can hear the lessons from others, learn the good and bad from others, so that you don't have to make those same errors. It just really speeds up your timeline and really accelerates your the human capital part, right, of the knowledge of what to do. Secondly, as you mentioned, it does provide that motivation, maybe that, not, I don't want to say kick in the butt, but maybe that gentle push in the back to kind of say, yeah, what you're thinking is correct, and take action on that. So I guess in a word like accountability, right? You can start having these accountability partners with people, and that's where, for me personally, I was one to be very private. Growing up Japanese, we never, in the families, we never really talked about money. We never really shared what we're doing. We're kind of more private, and that's how I operated. It was in 2018 when I really started networking and talking to people, that my trajectory changed, my life and my net worth, or passive cash flow number. That's where it really took off, and it was really refreshing, right? I'm probably a true introvert. I go to a party where I don't, I gotta mingle around. I'll come home very tired. That would be my typical me. My wife is more opposite. She enjoys all of that. But then what she noticed was when I would come back from these meetups, I would actually be very energized and be, oh, we talked about this and talked about that. And, it was very surprising because all of these people were probably people I wouldn't hang out with on a Friday night or a Thursday, whatever. It wouldn't be my typical people, but it was so enjoyable, so refreshing. You get people from all walks of life with all different experiences and backgrounds. And probably one of my main advices is to go out there. Now, the one challenge with that is there's a whole bunch of groups, right? There's a whole bunch, and you could get sidetracked. And I was just very fortunate to kind of land in two solid groups early on. I've probably been a part of, say, 5 groups or so. and those two groups, the first ones are the ones I really value and enjoy and still actively participate in. And that I kind of lucked out. If I had only those other three groups, it may not have, I may not be here where I am today. But that's where, again, I think you gotta talk to people. It's really a small community, and there's great resources. I think everyone's trying to do their best, but not every group is what they may meet your needs. So, but yeah, networking, cumulatively with collaboration, we can all do way better than what I feel someone by themselves could do.
Awesome. Well, you're talking about networking and being with other individuals, and like you're saying, talking about mistakes we've all made and experiences we've had, and I'm pretty sure you're going to agree with me. Like single family homes, rentals, it like you're saying, it's definitely not as passive as people make it out to be. And to me, I feel, but it's a great way to start and get educated. But it doesn't always have to be like that. Of course, the first few years are more challenging, but you can always use it to transition into other investment opportunities that you have, into more passive investments. But for someone looking to get started, like today, start this journey, like any advice or recommendations that you would give them?
Yeah, I would say, you do have education and knowledge is important, but I truly feel taking some action, taking whatever step that is, it could be just a small step, but seeing what that you can learn from that one small step, and then, just keep on doing maybe small actions, is way more powerful than, say, sitting in your room and listening to a podcast and doing all of these online or courses and just gaining knowledge for 1 year, right? If I would say, do small steps, take some action, learn from it, and then adjust. And some of that actions may be going out and talking to people, getting to know them versus just listening passively on a podcast or something. It is going out and actually talking to people, because that's where a lot of the knowledge sharing and that relationship, is huge. And that's where, that action may be just establishing relationships with people, true relationships, right? And that's where information will flow. I'm a big believer of genuine relationships. And then when you truly have that, then there's trust, there's the knowledge flow, opportunities present themselves, and the willingness to take some action is probably my best advice. Now, I'm one to kind of dive in first and then evaluate and then course correct, just because I was motivated to I had a pain point that I wanted to get out of, and I was very motivated that way. That may not be the right way for everyone. I've learned a lot of mistakes, but that's what gave me a lot of confidence to maybe do the right things also. So I was willing to make mistakes. I was never afraid of mistakes, as long as you can learn from it, right? And be better the next time. So.
That's actually a great lead into what my next question was going to be. Like, because I always tell people like the mistakes I made and things that I would do different. Like for me, definitely not planning well or preparing well with reserves is probably one of my biggest mistakes when I started, purchasing these single family homes. Is there any like big mistake that, you can share with us, or that, that you've made, that you think you've learned a lot from?
Yeah, and I would say, my wife, she reminds of me this all the time, is that, early on when I was talking about notes, the entry point is easier. I was very trusting, and I basically just got into some deals, just without a lot of due diligence. So I entered some joint venture agreements, probably not structured correctly, or not protecting my downside, or the what ifs. And that's literally, like 50,000 or so just walks off. And another one, it's these deals or these structures, and luckily that was early on in the process, that it wasn't large. I mean, 50,000 is a lot of money, but it's not like this my life savings. So um, but what that really taught me was that kind of swinging back to that relationship, right? Really establishing trust, because this whole investment community is really based off of trust, is what I feel, right? When we're investing in a syndication, oftentimes we're not investing in we are investing in that asset, but we're truly investing in the operator, and that relationship, right? That's really where you're putting your trust in. And that's why I think it is important to to establish that relationships. And that's what that initial deals and the failures of that really taught me was, I was just eager to just do something. People, there are some bad people out there, and who will just take your money, so I think it's very important to have that relationship. And at least there's that, so that there's that trust.
So, talking about relationships, did you ever like stay in contact with that landlord that when you were in college that had these properties and
I haven't. That's a good point. So we and he's in Seattle, right? And we'd go up, and I haven't. Every time we went up to Seattle, we'd drive by the old houses and would take pictures, and we'll do that. But I never. I should have, because in reality, I tell that story a lot. I never really thought about reaching out to him and looking him up, and really thanking him, right? Because
yeah.
he really yeah, put a bug in my mind that really had an impact, and it literally was like a 5 minute conversation, right? And that really stuck with me. So yeah, I haven't. So I'm gonna write that down and try and look him up, and the next time I'm in Seattle.
Yeah, he could be doing stuff like you're doing, and or maybe he wants to exit his portfolio or something. But just that's like you're saying, that's about building relationships and everything.
Yeah.
I don't want to take up too much of your time because I know you're retired and you got a lot of stuff to do, family stuff.
Yeah,
But
I love doing. I mean, I literally I could do this all day. I mean, I literally do. I talk to a lot of people. As much as I say that I'm sharing knowledge and helping others or wanting to help others, I learn a lot, right, from it too. Like, I mean, just like now, just you telling me, hey, maybe have you kept in touch? It always, you know, helps to talk to people, see different perspectives, and but yeah, I mean, I'm here if you want to chat more. But
yeah, well, so for like me, what I always tell people is like Rich Dad Poor Dad book.
mhm.
My uncle was in real estate, and he gave it to all the nieces and nephews, back, maybe when it first came out. I want to say like early 2000s maybe, and I read it, and it just didn't. I thought it was like this book is, doesn't make any sense. Like I'm always told my home is an asset, and it just didn't resonate with me until now. When I read it now, it just makes so much sense. Is there like any book or anything that kind of has in real estate or mindset that kind of is a book that you always refer to and as part of putting on the financial freedom path?
I would say I was heavily in. So I unlike probably most people, I didn't have that aha reading reading this Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read it after the fact, and yeah, it resonates with me. It's kind of similar to you. I would say, as far as kind of the use of leverage and kind of really changing my mindset, because I was on the track of pay down my mortgages, get my properties free and clear, not having debt. I really went from that mindset to use of strategic debt and the use of leverage. And I would attribute that, to George Antone. He has a few books out there, that it was which he was handing out during his courses. But like Debt Millionaire is one where so the basic concepts, right? And I mean, kind of in the title, the Debt Millionaire is, yeah, you're utilizing your debt to achieve your goals. But I would say that he has a series of books. I actually don't even know if it's on Amazon. but I have a few just because I went to a bunch of his classes. But that book, I would say, changed my mindset in the sense of using leverage, which is really what then changed kind of my path of how I'm going to structure my investments. Um, so I refer to that kind of not, I mean, it is investment related, but you talk about the infinite banking and kind of the legacy things. I would say Perpetual Wealth by Kim Butler is one book. It's a thick hardcover book that covers a lot of aspects that I really value. It's part of, establishing family values, having meetings with your family, because really focusing on the human capital side of your family. So we're all working hard to establish this wealth in our generation, and you really want to kind of leave that legacy for future generations, or that's what that's one of my goals. And perpetual wealth kind of embraces a lot of that, the use of permanent insurance as part of that foundation, but it also provides the tools to do that. And so yeah, that's a few books. Jim Snell's and the family boardroom. That's where you have quarterly meetings with your kids. Those are all mindset books that have really helped me put a focus on my why, or my passion of why I'm doing what I'm doing, or you know, even the decision to leave my W-2 job to be able to spend time with my family or my passions are big influences that books that had on me.
So, since you're like you're saying you left your W-2, you're pretty much retired, I guess you would say. Like, what is a normal day like for you? Like, how do you take up your time?
Good question. So I wake up. So I wake up early. I try to work out or do some journaling or meditation in the morning. That's one of the habits I really want to implement. My kids, 12 and 9, two boys, they wake up for some reason 5:45 every morning, 5 or 6 o'clock every morning. We have to be out of the house by 6:45 because of the traffic to get the both of them to school on time. Um, so literally, I wake up, we're getting breakfast and things ready. Um, then we're taking the kids to school, and the normal routine would be, my wife drive, I'm in the passenger seat, and I'm on my computer, and I can be there with them, do things, talk to them about school and their day, and kind of just check up on things on the computer. And then, to be honest, after that, the other day we'd go surfing. We drop them off, so by the time we get swing by the beach, which we live by a surf spot here that we often it's so we're there maybe for a few hours, and then have lunch. Um, and then, as you mentioned, naps. I love naps, and I normally have a lunchtime nap after lunch, and then it's in the afternoon where we're picking up the kids. There's numerous events, whether it's taking them to piano or ukulele or baseball practices now, and it's just being able to be there for them at that time. I am involved in a lot of like Rotary, just the kids' schools and some service projects there. And then, as I mentioned, talking to other investors. So, I do provide consult on not only the investment, but the insurance stuff, which has become very popular. So people, have maybe a few calls a week, similar to just like this, where we're talking about things, um, and that's kind of our days. I really health and mental health, and along with physical health, has been a big focus. So um, surfing, working out, eating healthy, and just enjoying life is really our focus right now.
That's awesome. I mean, like, especially since you were saying, like around 2018, you felt like it was so far away from you. Your goal was so far away, and you're like, I don't know if you're depressed exactly, but you kind of were feeling that you're kind of behind your goal or your path, I guess. And in a few years, I mean, you're now enjoying it, and taking naps after lunch, and just enjoying your time. But like you said, you have kids, 12 and 9, and
Mhm.
I have a 7-year old, and I know that superheroes and all of these things have now become a big part of my life again. I mean, I was into comics when I was younger, but now it's coming back, and especially because of all the movies and whatnot. So I'm sure there's things that your kids have influenced you with. So as you can see, my posters in the back and what. Are you a Marvel or a DC type superhero person, you would say?
Ooh. So I will say in this day and age, I'm a Marvel fan, heavily influenced by the Avengers. You know, and kind of mentioning, I mean, I got to attribute Lane kind of saying this, the Avengers kind of like a group of people coming to help save the world is his idea of sort of like the family office or these masterminds. But in addition to that, during the pandemic, I wasn't really a big movie guy, but the pandemic allowed me to watch the whole Avengers series, like in the not the release date, but kind of the order of the movie, how it was intended to be, and I was really impressed with that. That whole production of how things were all related and intertwined, all these individual movies intertwined. Um, so yeah, I would say because of that, I'm a big Marvel guy. Growing up, comic books. I did collect comic books for a while, and there was a Death of Superman, and that was a huge thing. So I was really into Superman in that aspect. But that was. But I would never actually really read the comics. It was all for collecting. So
Yeah.
we would never open it. So I never really actually read those.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would say I'm a Marvel guy.
Is there a character or superhero that kind of relates to you, or you like their superpowers that they have, or how does any of them relate to you, I guess, as a person?
Yeah, that's interesting. So, and this may be a little unrelated, but I would have to, if I had to choose one right now, what comes to mind is Thor. And the reason for that is purely because we just watched that Disney series Limitless with Chris Hemsworth, um, where I've really become a fan of him as a human or just as an individual. He likes to surf. He loves his family, and he's on this journey of kind of maybe limitless is maybe based on longevity, improving his longevity, but not just the length of life, but the quality of life too. So I was really drawn to that series. We're watching it. I shared it with my parents, and that's something I like to bring up. But yeah, Chris Hemsworth is on the top of my mind, so I would have to refer to Thor would be my answer, just purely
Oh,
because.
that's a different one. Not too many people put Thor up there. Usually it's like Iron Man, Spider Man. But okay, that's a different one. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, we can wrap things up now. But how can people get a hold of you if they want to sit down, talk about how to achieve financial independence, or even infinite banking concepts, or just pick your brain on how you did it and how you transitioned to all these alternative investments, and even just your experiences from them?
Yeah, yeah, I would say, I mean, the easiest way would be reach me by email. It's bank@simplepassivecashflow.com. That would be probably the easiest way. I monitor that email daily. I do have a Calendly link, which maybe you can show, but that's purely for if you're interested in learning about infinite banking. So, people can really reach out to me via email if they want to connect. And then
All your naps are blocked off, right? The nap times on your calendar are all blocked off on
the
the.
Calendly allows me to kind of be in control of my meetings. So yeah, it's not I'm not available 8 hours a day, but that's by design. But I make myself available, because I truly it's not that far ago that I was just starting off and being wanting to absorb all of this information. So I really like to make myself available for that.
Awesome. Well, I recommend everyone try and reach out to Tyler, or just join some groups, mastermind, and these are the type of people that you're going to meet out there. I feel like I've known him for how many years already? I mean, but I feel like I've known him my whole life, and it just built this relationship that I can ask him questions, or hopefully I can give him advice, and he can give me advice. But it's just building relationships. And so everyone out there, like I said, just his links will all be below. Reach out to him. Please like, subscribe, comment on the videos, hit the notifications. But if not, keep looking for all those great deals out there.